Hello, what is up everyone? It is I am the one and only Sonic here from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to some sort like a mini Let's Play, but that does usually count as any forms of Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz Let's Play. Now if you guys are probably thinking that you've already did manage to tackle through Banana Blitz already, haven't you? Well, to be more specifically, that Piglet did manage to tackle for that original version of the game back in 2019 to able to celebrate this HD remaster as you can see on screen. So anyways, here's the forms of Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD, and after the release of the original Wii version of the game back in 2006, but it wasn't until 13 years later, according to the forms of specific timeline, that Banana Blitz HD did manage to come out in 2019. For the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, Steam, and of course the Nintendo Switch version, which as you can see from the actual button icons, I'm be playing this on the Nintendo Switch version. So because of this though, the reason why I'm going to be doing this mini sort of Let's Play of this, because I don't know if we can able to actually do a brand new Let's Play just yet though, until specifically next month, until May. But as you can tell, that we still have the usual main 6 characters ever since the original game, but except we actually got ourselves quite a number of things. Like for instance, we actually got ourselves alternate costumes between Ai, Mimi, Baby, Gon Gon, Yen Yen, and Doctor. But the biggest highlight for the actual character selection screen anyways is myself, in this case Sonic the Hedgehog. And by the way, some of these alternative costumes from certain characters, including Sonic the Hedgehog, just needs to be unlocked by the way, and to unlock Sonic the Hedgehog is by simply need to complete World 1 all the way up to World 8. So because of this though, yeah, it's pretty easy all things considered when you're trying to figure out the controls, because as you can tell, the main differences between the original version of the game compared to its HD remaster is that for one, the actual graphical overhaul is actually a little bit more cleaner, and plus it's much more crisper than ever before. And second of all is the fact that the UI main menu system is actually a little bit more nicely designed, I suppose. So thankfully you don't need to utilize the motion controls. And because of this though, the big selling point of this remake is that, well, it's not necessary by the forms of how the fact that it doesn't add anything new, well, aside from Sonic the Hedgehog being a playable character of course, which is 10 times awesome. But also get this, is the fact that unlike the original version of the game, that basically there aren't any motion controls this time around. So in this case, you'll be entirely playing this remastered with just the analog stick, which I was like, okay, this is more like it. Especially noticeable how the fact that most people complain about the forms of the control scheme of the original Banana Blitz game back on the Nintendo Wii. But either way though, it knows what it is. So yeah, the actual main story in Banana Blitz HD follows the exact same story as the original version of the game, so there's no real getting deep into this, especially noticeable that I somehow managed to talk over for the actual cutscene this time around, because obviously it plays out exactly the same aside from the actual graphical updates here and there. So, how it works for Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD. As I said before, no motion controls, so instead you get able to actually use the analog stick, which is pretty much awesome as you expect. However, there are some slight differences in between the original version of the game compared to the HD remaster. Is that, well, if you couldn't tell already, it's the fact that rather than just, well, you're still able to actually access the stage selection screen like the forms of how it does in the original version of the game. However though, the biggest difference is this time is that we can able to actually jump right into the next stage almost instantly this time around, which even then though, mainly due to the fact that as you can tell, unlike the forms of how it does in the original version of the game, there is no practice mode this time around, and what makes things a bit disappointing to me though anyway, is that there is no replay data system anymore. Which, just like the forms of how it does it on Super Monkey Ball Jr., Super Monkey Ball for the N-Gage, and even especially noticeable with Super Monkey Ball Adventure, those games also don't have replay options, which is kind of a shame honestly. But, at least on the upside is though, is the fact that technically speaking, they've already technically did the actual replay system, but in the forms of the actual share button or something, or to be more specifically, the actual capture button on the Switch, at least depending if you're able to hold down the power button of course. So, you know, you probably get the idea about this is going, so And obviously, the actual main worlds themselves plays out exactly the same as the forms of the original version of the game, but there's going to be some slight differences once we get into World 4, all the way up to, well, let's just say until World 10. And because of that though, much like the original version of the game, I'm going to be going for all 10 worlds throughout the game. However, here's the thing this time around, is the fact that most of these worlds go down a lot quicker this time around, mainly due to the fact that with the lack of load times, we've especially noticeable about the fact that every time, whenever you're able to complete the level, that it just shows us the actual replay for almost instant. Basically, it's the fact that, usually, relatively speaking, that's, well, obviously you're just able to go to the next stage on the stage selection, and then boom, there you go. And also another thing as well, you can't able to actually change whatever characters you want to this time around, so you've only just got stuck with one character only. So because of that though, yeah, there's not much right to home about. So either way though, once again you get out to deal with the forms of the exact same boss fights as the forms of the original version of the game, such as for instance with this little, bird boss fight, which, by the way, something's worth mentioning for the sake of another huge differences between, you know, the original version of Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz compared to the HD remaster, is that some of this music has been replaced. Like, you notice about the fact that I've already shown you the intro cutscene of the game, that you notice that that particular music track theme you might be familiar with, which appears to be based off from Super Monkey Ball 2, Amusement Park World from World 5. And I was like, okay, this is a bit weird to able to actually have that music in there. Although, this is mainly due to licensing issues. So because of this though, most of the music, the only exception of one music, which I'm glad that's been kept, that we'll talk more about that until later. So in this case though, that the first world's theme, in this case Monkey Island, is actually entirely brand new. So in this case though, that I kind of prefer the original music selection a bit more than the forms of how it does it on the HD remaster selections of music. Because I don't know why, something about the nostalgia from the likes of the original game to me though, feels a little bit more enjoyable to listen to. Because I don't know, something about the first theme on the forms of Monkey Island, you know, new theme, just feels kind of meh to me. But that's besides the point. And also, if you notice, on the very first boss fight in the game, that it does manage to have this another familiar music in the background, which appears to be the credits theme from the original Super Monkey Ball. So, yeah, that's something worth noting for. So because of that though, and also as you can see on screen, that rather than just taking you to the staff credit sequence, unlike the forms of how it does in the original version of the game, so it just allows you to able to not only just manage to able to go back to the main menu, but you can able to actually instantly manage to go into the next world. So in this case, the next world is obviously Jumble Jungle, so you probably expect it by this point. So because of this though, and for whatever reason, the music track on this though this time around is actually based off from Super Monkey Ball 2 Monkey Shot mode, to be more specifically in beginner stage, because you know you're able to take down all sorts of like crazy robots here and there, including the forms of that creepy spider robot at the very end of that particular difficulty. So yeah, I guess that's fine, I suppose. Even though the actual level announcer, it plays out exactly the same as the original version, so not much else different from there, and there's my first step for the playthrough, so to be expected. And plus, because of this though, you can able to get the ridiculous amount of extra lives this time around, because obviously, much like the original version of the game, collecting 20 bananas is actually really easy to able to get an extra life. And because of that though, that unlike 3D, banana splits, and you name the rest, basically it's the fact that you can get the ridiculous amount of extra lives. So, you probably expect it by this point. So either way though, dang it, I just have no idea, I've lost control of myself right there. But regardless of everything else though, I should be fine as it is. And obviously, if you couldn't tell with the actual Sonic the Hedgehog being a playable character, as you can see on screen, don't be surprised with this though, because this is pretty much inspired by classic Sonic. So, to be expected, which most people seem to able to think that, are they going to bring modern Sonic to the table? But the thing is though, is that modern Sonic is actually a little bit more, well, advanced, because obviously with boost formula and stuff like that, and he runs a lot more faster. So I think classic Sonic might actually helped out to be, but either way though, it's not one of those highly expectations when it comes to able to actually just, you know, hoping that, you know, the actual thing is actually gives us plenty of surprises from here. And what's also interesting, if you ever play this with Sonic the Hedgehog, as you can see, rather than collecting bananas, instead you're actually going to be collecting rings, which is pretty cool, all things considered. Well, for regular rings, as well as these shiny rings, and, you know, shiny rings were able to give you 10 rings, so, just like a bunch of bananas from the likes of, if you ever play as either Ai, Mimi, Baby, Gon Gon, Yen Yen, or even Doctor for that matter, that basically you're able to collect bananas and all that stuff, which should be expected for the most part, so, but I digress. And you probably noticed about the fact that every time whenever you get into the forms of, oh, really? That's kind of my fault. But anyway, today's day is of course the 28th of April today, in this case in 2021, and it looks like that we only got about 2 more days to go until new Pokemon Snap for the Nintendo Switch will be releasing by that time, so I'm still excited for it. And also, there's going to be some other surprise announcements during the course of not only for yesterday, which I suppose that Maxi has forgot to mention about this ever since in Sonic Advance 3 Let's Play so far, that I'll get into more details about that whenever we get on to the next few worlds later. So because of that though, I'll briefly talk more about that later. So because of that though, yeah, there's not much else I can say in terms of Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD as far as the actual remastered game as far as I'm concerned. I found this alright, but I'll talk more details about my final thoughts of it until specifically this Friday, because I was expecting that, well, originally this was going to be my first attempt for this recording session, but I have a number of issues with the forms of my previous recording attempts for the sake of this playthrough of Sonic in Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD. First of all, I originally going to do this on 2020, but it's got delayed due to the forms of that massive power cut that I've managed to got. And second of all is that, basically, what's kind of a bit of a bummer is that, well, you see why whenever we get onto the third world, that you do realize is the fact that I did manage to get some progression when it comes to the third world, but chances are that, again, I'll explain more details about this later. So because of this though, yeah, there's not much else to really say about this for the most part. So, I gotta say, that classic Sonic, even though despite the fact that it's called Sonic the Hedgehog, he's probably my favorite character to play as in this HD remastered version of the game, because I don't know why. Something about his jumps, speed, and everything else to be more specific, he's easily the best character to use in this HD remastered anyway. And plus, not to mention, he doesn't make that much noises, unlike the forms of how he does it on, you know, any other majority of the playable characters, I suppose. So, in this case though, he's definitely my main character to use when it comes to HD remastered version of this game. Despite the fact that you do need to unlock him first, which is kind of a downside, but it knows what it is when it comes to certain completionists, so anyways, here we go on to Hehe Canyon boss fight. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I absolutely despise this version of this boss fight. Well, the problem with this is the fact that I swear, the actual offense, especially noticeable if you get hit by missiles, is way too overpowered in this remake. Although I understand because of how the fact that maybe because I'm used to with the original version of the game to able to actually get ourselves a little bit more defense or something like that, but for whatever reason, they just got nerfed on the HD remaster this time around. And because of that though, you're probably gonna get yourselves wrecked a lot, and even especially noticeable, it drains lives very, very fast. But thankfully for me, it actually took me 1 attempt, so because of that though, and in another one of those reasons that it took so long to able to do this kinds of playthroughs like this, is that this boss fight just managed to give me a hard time, especially that when I did manage to finish him off completely, that if I was expecting I can move on to the next world, which is World 3 Smooth Sherbet, I swear to God, I somehow accidentally fell off from this unexpected missile attack, and as a result, I'm gonna have to do the entire boss fight all over again, and it's just not fun to me. I have no idea why they screwed that boss fight up, so yeah, as you can see on screen, I somehow managed to reset myself, because as you can tell, I've actually got 3 lives, as opposed to like 18 lives. this is mainly obvious because I somehow managed to get into this world, and then I somehow, whenever I complete the very first stage on this world, I somehow ended up on the boss fight instantly, which I know is kind of a bit of a problematic, especially noticeable how the fact that autosaving is now a thing. So because of that though, I actually have to restart the world. So because of that though, this is not only the only time we're going to be able to do this, but no, it wasn't until in World 10 where I swear to God, World 10 is going to be a biggest pain in the backside, which you see why until specifically later on, which I'm sure that most people already know what I'm talking about, especially noticeable if you haven't fallen through our Let's Play of Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz already, then you probably know what I'm talking about, so... But I digress. You know what the forms of that second boss fight that we've already done? That music was actually heavily borrowed from Super Monkey Ball 3D in the 6th world in the game, which appears to be Skyopolis. So yeah, I just want to classify that. Thankfully, the 3rd world in the game, which we're about to be heading to right now, is Smooth Sherbet. Because basically, this is the only original Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz musical track that's been kept left intact. So because of that though, I will still say that Smooth Sherbet's theme song is definitely the best music in the game, just because of the forms of how cool the music is to listen to, and yeah, that's pretty much how this goes. So either way though, let's get to the actual discussion with the forms of new stuff that's been happening. Well, first of all, that you noticed about the fact that since that Gianna, she's pretty much still going to be working on the forms of Mario Party 4, that she was pretty much going to be moving on to the 5th board at some point this weekend. Well, turns out that speaking of Mario Party, is that unexpectedly, that we actually finally got ourselves our free update when it comes to Super Mario Party. Not the actual sequel, but the original Super Mario Party. And what they added in? A full-on online mode, which as a result, that this is more like it, especially noticeable because we're still on a pandemic at the moment, which is true, and despite the fact that it just took way too bloody long. I'm sorry for this language, by the way, but as a result, it's about goddamn time to able to actually finally have a full-on online mode during the course of Super Mario Party, which aside from online Mario-thon, which is basically it's like a side thing I suppose, but now we actually got ourselves the online mode for Mario Party mode, Partner Party mode, and of course free play, in this case mini games. So the thing is with the mini games though in online play is that you're only going to be playing through like, let's just say 17 mini games out of 80 mini games, mainly due to the fact that, well, Soundstage will can't participate in online mode, and especially noticeable in Ruthless Survival mode essentially as well. So yeah, because of this though, those two modes have been completely left out when it comes to online play. But that's fine, and especially noticeable with well, Challenge Mode as well, because obviously it's a single player experience. So because of this though, I'm fine with that. And also same applies to Toad's Rec Room, for, you know, extra minigames and all that stuff though, which, again, I'm fine with, because even then though, board gameplay in the online play, and I was like, this is more like it. Especially noticeable how the fact that most Mario Party fans, including myself, are dying to see the forms of online play in action, not only in terms of minigames, but also the board gameplay aspect as well, which I was expecting if they were able to bring in a new Mario Party to the mix, but the truth is though, and the trouble with this is that since how the fact that Super Mario Party is doing so well when it comes to selling points and all that stuff though, which is true, just as mainly because this is on the Nintendo Switch, and also it brings back the classic gameplay aspect from the, you know, the past Mario Party games, ranging from Mario Party 1 all the way up to Mario Party DS, including, you know, 8 as well. So because of that though, yeah, this is more accurately the definitive Mario Party game out there now, even though despite the fact that it's like, let's just say 2.5 years late during the course of the actuals for the sake of this update. So because of that though, yeah, this is more like it. In fact, leave it down in the comments below for the question of the day. Have you guys ever played the online play in Super Mario Party already? Or if not, then you might get around into it eventually, which I might as well do eventually. But not now though, just because we're actually playing Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD today, so just want to get this out the way before we move on to the next Super Monkey Ball Let's Plays. Like, I think we've pretty much almost done with the series by this point, until God knows until when the actual rumored Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania will exist, but God knows when, because even then though, we actually still on April, so it could be a possibility that we can able to actually see some more Sega announcements during the course of the E3 2021 announcements, which thankfully they did manage to add it into the list, so at least expecting to be hyped for more Sonic stuff, and one of those announcements for Super Monkey Ball eventually, because obviously the series will be, for Sonic the Hedgehog, it was obviously 30th anniversary, and as far as Super Monkey Ball is concerned, well, 20th anniversary. So because of this though, yeah, I'm actually really hyped for both, depending if they're gonna be true or not, so. But anyways, that concludes the forms of Smurf Sherbet, and the musical track on that particular boss fight that we actually did manage to defeat is based off from Super Monkey Ball 3D on the third world, which appears to be, for some reason, Sweet Fountain. So I just have no idea why they just managed able to bring that music for some reason back. But anyways, let's move on to the forms of Detritus Desert, and it appears to be that Detritus Desert is the fact that, while this particular world does have its brand new theme, so I guess that might be some sort of like a true scenarios for that knowledge. So in this case though, this is where we're able to actually come across into the first major difference in between the original version of the game compared to its HD remaster, just because of the lack of motion controls here and there. Speaking of motion controls actually, is the fact that you notice right from the start though, is the fact that when you start the game off, that obviously you do select 6 different playable characters to start with, obviously. And also you do notice is the fact that they do manage to add in some other modes, mainly due to the forms of how the fact that, well, usually, just somehow fell off right there, which is pretty unexpected because of the forms of that stupid bounce that I've managed to come across into from this very, very random chance that I was able to bounce off into certain places. But there's going to be a couple of times when I'm also going to able to come across into certain death situations where it comes to this random bounce mechanic. But either way though, it's just a bit of a nitpick I suppose, for me anyway. So yeah, you do notice is the fact that the amount of minigames in the forms of the HD remaster of Banana Blitz is being cut down tremendously. Like, to be more specifically, remember the original game? They did manage to obviously contain 50 minigames, and then on the HD remaster, they cut down 40 minigames, and instead they're bringing back, well, 10 minigames specifically, which is a bit of a little amount. But on the upside is though, is the fact that, again, you don't need to utilize motion controls anymore. So I guess that's some sort of like a good thing for some scenarios, but at the same time, lacking replayability. Which, the biggest highlight for me though, for the sake of this remaster as well, is that, actually I'll get into more details about this in a second. Here's the forms of one of those differences between the original version of the game, as you can see, that we now actually come across into split paths, as you can see on screen. Well, not in the forms of the beginning portion or the second portion, but to be more specifically, the ending portion, as you can see this time around right here. Rather than just having ourselves another simple straight path unlike the original game, so now you're able to actually now realize there is now a fork in a road. So that's at least one of those differences when it comes to certain level layouts and all that stuff. So I guess that's some sort of manageable. So either way though, there's not much else I can honestly try to say about this for the most part. So in fact, it has been quite a few years actually since I last touched upon this game. I think the last time I touched this game was actually in 2019, when that game managed to first came out on the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch. And I managed to play the PlayStation 4 version first, just in case for sake of trophy collecting, and also the Switch version, just in case we're able to play on the go. And of course, recently I've managed to pick up the forms of Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD on Xbox One, mainly due to the fact that I was about to try to able to obtain, you know, Xbox Series X exponentially in the future. But unfortunately though, due to stalking issues, is the fact that I seem to have no luck trying to able to get Xbox Series X yet, because this is on one of those games to able to have backwards compatibility with, which is kind of top-notch, I'm gonna have to say for this point right now. Especially because even then though, if I was desperately able to get achievements or something, then this might be a game for me. So because of that though, and another thing is worth noting for is the fact that this is the reason why it took so long to able to do this mini playthrough of any sorts, despite the fact that we are still playing Banana Blitz that we've already know. But the annoying thing about this is, for me, is that whenever I'm trying to do a lot of editing stuff, especially noticeable towards any forms of, at the end of this playthrough, for specifically Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD as Sonic the Hedgehog, is that sometimes my computer starts to lag, which as a result, it just feels way too inconsistent, I'm telling you. It just feels way inconsistent. But, anywho, so now let's go and move on to the next stage. So, in this case, though, we need to get a lot of emphasis on swinging, bars or swinging platforms to able to hop into. So, yeah, there's not much else I can honestly try to say in terms of how, Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD plays out, and especially looks like at the same time. Although I will say, this is definitely a little bit better than the original Wii version, aside from the fact that they did manage to able to cut out a lot of mini-games, and also at the same time that some of these music has been replaced due to licensing issues, and I don't honestly mind this at all, especially noticeable they did manage to bring back some familiar musical tracks, like I already mentioned this before, one of those music from Super Monkey Ball 1, the credit sequence I should say, and some of them from Super Monkey Ball 2, like Amusement Park theme, and also, you know, Monkey Shot beginner level, and I suppose that's pretty much about it. So because of that though, the only drawback for Sonic, I will have to admit though right away, is that Sonic can't able to get rid of those bumpers, as you can see. Although mind you, it has been quite a long time since I actually did manage to play this remastered in particular. Mainly it's because I haven't touched upon this for quite some time. Mainly it's because I was pretty much hoping for able to actually wait until the next game will able to exist. To be more specifically on the next generation of consoles, well, aside from, you know, Nintendo Switch and also PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and even PC Steam versions eventually at some point or another. But you probably get the idea of what I was going to say for this point right here. So, now let's go ahead and move on to the next boss fight, which appears to be, well, again, it's a very unique boss fight because we actually get on the actual, the dinosaur robot's body, so even then though, well, at least we can able to hop on top of that, like a Technosaur. I think that's what his name is with this boss fight. And apparently the music track on this though is actually heavily borrowed from Super Monkey Ball 3D, Green Ship level, which is actually from Monkey Fight. In this case, the uninspired version of Super Smash Bros. Mode, basically, from the likes of Monkey Ball. Or to be more specifically, a watered down version of Super Smash Bros. But that's besides the point. So, yeah, you probably get the idea of how this will go. And, I just realized that the starting location on this version of this particular boss fight starts off a little bit more different this time around, because rather than just showing us the forms of the actual boss's weak spot, while during the forms of that specific starting location exist, but instead that we actually did manage to end it up on the forms of seeing the cinematic first, and then we somehow managed to able to actually just start from this spot, as you can see right there, from that little camera angle right there, which is different, but either way though, it knows what it is. And also another thing is worth noting for as well, is that those missiles are, you know what, I mentioned this before, that these missiles can be overpowered in this remastered version of the Banana Blitz game. That turns out they're actually going ridiculously fast as well. So because of that though, there were a few times that I was well able to get OP'd and all that stuff though. Well, get beaten by OP'd missiles and all that stuff, where it's just, again, kind of inconsistent at times, but still. But regardless, some of these boss fights plays out exactly the same as the original, so because of that though, aside from the actual difficulty spike that is usually coming up, well, to be more specifically, with the most annoying unpredictable missile you can have to dodge, so as a result of that specific stuff though, there's not much else to certain boss fights. Again, it plays out pretty much exactly like how it did in the originals, that's for sure, aside from, you know, motion controls is absent, so although I was expecting if the Joy-Cons were able to become motion controlled completely, but it turns out it's just not instead. So, again, at least I'm fine with this though, especially noticeable because, you know, I already mentioned this before, that most people complain about motion controls in the original game. So, I think we should probably do one more world for the sake of this video, which means we're actually doing 5 worlds per video. Hooray! Especially noticeable about the fact that most of these worlds, as I said this before, go down a little bit quicker this time around, because with the lack of staff credit sequence by the end of each world, and also at the same time, no loading times, and also same applies to the forms of, well, just not so much dragged on moments like this. So, but I digress. So let's move on to the forms of Pirates Ocean, and the music track choice this time around is another one of those worlds based off from Super Monkey Ball 3D, which is of course Banana Nightmare, which I think that's what the world is called from Super Monkey Ball 3D. I think it was in the 4th world, if I recall correctly. Well, despite I haven't touched upon 3D just yet though, well, aside from the fact that I've almost technically already almost completed that particular game, fully 100% or anything, so... And then there's another one of those replacement objects every once in a while, because rather than just having ourselves a little bit of a tilting motion control guardrail, so instead they now got replaced by those thin platforms. So because of that though, I can assure you this might be a bit harder than the forms of the original version, just because of the lack of motion controls, so I'm guessing there might be some consumption. So, at least in this case though, I honestly don't mind about this, as I said this countless amount of times already, so you probably get the idea. So, in fact, what we're gonna do, for the sake of this playthrough, is that, well, at least I already mentioned about this before, that I think we're already gonna be doing 5 worlds per video, just because, well, most of these worlds go by a lot quicker than the forms of how it does in the original version of the game, because again, the lack of replay videos, and also same applies to the lack of loading times, and to top it off, that there's no dragged out moments, well, aside from, you know, get a lot of emphasis on motion controls that you're gonna have to get a lot of practice with. So, but you know, that's just how this particularly remastered version of the game actually plays out to be. So, yeah, there's not much else to honestly trying to say. But aside from the fact that the visuals do look way more better than the forms of how it does in the original version, that's for sure. Like, aside from the fact it can be a bit plasticky at some points. Well, for specifically certain character models, like, you know, I, Mimi, and the rest of the gang. But, it knows what it is for the most part. So, but I digress. And one thing that's a bit of a controversial when it comes to certain Monkey Ball fans out there is that they were expecting if, well, originally when the new Monkey Ball game is now finally a thing, after 7 whole years since Super Monkey Ball Banana Splits on the PlayStation Vita, they actually came out in 2012, on this very, very poorly received PlayStation Vita due to the poor sales and all that stuff, at least in the English countries, but it did so well in Japan, surprisingly. But either way though, when this game was actually first announced, and I was like, okay, I'm actually really excited for this, because it's been like, you know, 7 years since the last Super Monkey Ball game came out, not counting the forms of Banana... Well, let's just say not counting the forms of Bounce on the iOS, because that game is no longer there on the iPhone stores anymore, just because I don't think there's one of those expectations they're able to receive, you know, that much downloads, because it's just basically, it's like Pickle Blast, but in a Super Monkey Ball makeover, so at least that might be some only things worth noting for. So, I digress. So I believe we are pretty much moving on to the forms of the halfway point in terms of Pirates Ocean. So, yeah, I'm quite surprised that, as you can tell, that why this particular playthrough is going to be super duper quick. Mainly it's because it's pretty obvious, because of the forms of most of these levels go down a lot quicker and all that stuff. So, you probably get the suggestion. So, and also another thing is worth mentioning for this point as well is that recently is the fact that Animal Crossing New Horizons is about to be getting its new update. Although nothing major, sadly, mainly it's because of the fact that, well, mainly because I haven't exactly looked upon that much of Animal Crossing New Horizons for quite some time. Although mainly because I'm usually playing other games for the time. But that's how it is for me. So, anyway. And, also another thing I was want to point out as well is the fact that, well, usually relatively speaking, it's just the fact the matter is though, is the fact that, well, again, there's not much else I can say, because even then I would explain things quite a lot, but either way though, it knows what it is, so... And also there's going to be some occasional levels where they do have managed to able to have some different time limited differences. Like, there's one example in Space Case, in, let's just say in level 3, basically that particular level in the original version of the game do manage to have themselves like 90 seconds in the original version, but somehow it's been changed in the HD remastered version of the game, which, again, we'll talk more about that whenever we get on to the second part of this playthrough, so because of this though, yeah, there's not much else I can honestly try to say here. In fact, when it comes to able to actually releasing a Monkey Ball game on, not only for Nintendo console, ever since in, well, the last time they actually did manage to release a Monkey Ball game on the console, on Nintendo consoles, is the 3DS on Super Monkey Ball 3D, but then they finally managed to get the Monkey Ball game on the Switch, but it's more specifically like a remastered, version of Banana Blitz or something like that, and, at least they're expecting they were able to make a, the Wii U game on the Super Monkey Ball franchise, but it doesn't exist just because of the forms of, they opted on the forms of, the PlayStation Vita instead. Although I don't mind the Vita to be a small extent, but it does manage to able to receive very, very poorly for sales. But it does have some good reviews for what I've heard, but it doesn't usually just manage to able to compare it to the forms of the PlayStation Portable, because the PSP did manage to able to do quite well, so at least in this case though. Oh, that's another thing as well, is the fact that I swear to God, much like in Sonic Unleashed sometimes, on the 360 version and the PlayStation 3 version sometimes, I swear that I press the jump button, but most of the time, it just doesn't come out with me most of the time, which, that might happen in rare occasions during the course of this particular playthrough, but that's besides the point. So now let's move on to the next boss fight, which appears to be this little Octopus boss fight, and it does have its new boss theme as well. So, yeah, that seems a little bit more interesting to say the least, although I'm pretty sure to you is the fact that alongside with this next boss fight coming up, that between these two boss fights, they do manage to have themselves, I would classify for saying new boss themes or something, but even then though, because again, it has been a couple of days since I actually did manage to touch this game, because of, obviously I did play some other better Nintendo Switch games out there, like, you know, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and, of course, recently Super Mario Party for the sake of the actual more online features now, so that's about time, and all that stuff. Well, despite missing the forms of rhythm games on online mode due to sound stage, does not make a cut for the sake of the forms of online play. But again, that's fine by me, so... But I digress. And I still really think that this boss fight might be a bit finicky when it comes to likely collusion thing right there. And especially noticeable because if I somehow manage to get close to the actual Octopus boss fight, sometimes I swear to God I always get myself knocked off for the sake of the forms of not only for his tentacles, but also is the fact that some of these enemies might able to actually spawn in most of the time, which is a bit annoying, but it knows what it is for the most part, so either way though. And I'm very glad that I'm actually going to be doing this playthrough for the sake of you guys, because I don't know, although I did actually saw a lot of playthroughs in terms of Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD, as playing as Sonic the Hedgehog, but I do notice the fact that I haven't exactly noticed that I don't know... Ah, dang it. Anyway, I don't know if the forms of Clement J64 were able to actually do this game, because obviously he did manage to recently finish up with the entirety of the Sonic Retrospective series. Well, for the time being anyway, until God knows Sega were able to actually release the next Sonic game for the 30th anniversary or something, and especially noticeable with, well, some certain, like, Sonic fans, like Kumonamai456, which we still haven't heard from him yet, especially noticeable because he was actually, I was a big fan of his channel back then, especially ever since in 2012, all the way up to, can you just hit this weak spot, please? Oh, for God's sake. I consider this to be one of the hardest boss fights in the game. Well, at least not for a small degree, because thankfully you do able to actually recover for a little bit, but it still feels a bit inconsistent when it comes to likely with collusion thing right there, even when it comes to like hitbox when it comes to like dealing with the tentacles and all that stuff. So because of that though, I'm still not too crazy with this boss fight in the end though, at the end of the day, at least between two versions of the game. Well, you know, the original version as well as the remastered version. So, but at least the visuals still look a bit nice though. So as I said this countless amount of times already. And I think he's only got 1 hit left or something, or possibly 2 hits left. I don't know, we'll see what happens there. Sometimes the camera will decide to freak out for a moment, but, oh jeez Louise, okay, we only got 1 hit left, so... In fact, most of these sound effects are heavily borrowed from the original game, aside from, you know, Sonic's weird jump sound effects, which I was expecting to go like, what? Just like in the classic games, but it turns out it didn't, so... Anyways, that concludes the 5th boss fight, and I'm glad to be done with this fight because sometimes, you know, I always die to this guy plenty of times. But I digress. So I guess we should probably end things off at this point here. So join me until Friday for more of Let's Play of Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz, specifically HD. It's that we'll move on to World 6 all the way up to World 10 as Sonic. So I'll see you guys on Friday.